Hey guys, Tomboy601, and today we have my home state battleship, the Florida. Yes, I know she's made up and technically she's not the real Florida, but she's in the game now and we're gonna have a good time reviewing her today. She is very different than the rest of the American battleships. She does not play like them. She is an oddball, much like my home state. I will take the Florida man charges. Anyways, we got a review today. We're gonna go over stats, builds, mods, all that good stuff. Also, we'll of course show off a game in her to highlight her unique playstyle for the American ships. You may also call it passive because it's kind of what you have to be in the ship. Anyway, Florida Tier 6 Premium Battleship, released in the first week of this update, which is kind of surprising, but hey, we are here. Let's go ahead and start diving on into those stats. So first off, her base hit points 63,800 with an armor thickness between 12 and 406 millimeters. Let's go ahead and throw up that armor view, and you're gonna notice just how thin some of this armor is. Bow is 25 meters, which isn't too not standard for the ships of this tier, but then you will notice her belt armor, which is only at 26 millimeters, meaning that anything with 15 or 16-inch guns is going to be able to overmatch not only your nose, but your sides as well, which can get pretty interesting because that's about half the battleships at tier 5. It's about 2/3 of the battleships at tier 6, and the majority of the battleships at tier 7. So you do not want to be shot at in this ship. One bright side to her is going to be her deck. It is 37 millimeters, so you will be able to resist all of those shells. But the only way you're going to get fire on the ship, or on that part of the ship, is if you are very, very far away. So that is kind of how you have to play this ship. Very, very far away. As far as torpedo reduction does go, really good torpedo reduction at 26%. Her unique feature, and it makes her kind of feel like almost a French battleship, is 3 quad barrel turrets that are 356 millimeters, so essentially same size as the good old New Mexico. Firing range on them, 16.1 kilometers with a reload time of 33.5 seconds, which is a whole long time. Shells per minute, it's only going to give you 21 shells per minute, which is just based on the math. Really, you're going to get 1 salvo per minute, and then just on the other side of that minute, you'll get your next salvo. Rotation time on those turrets, 45 seconds. HE damage is, it's not great. 4,750, giving you a DPM of 99,750. Not even breaking the 100k per minute mark, which ain't good. 22% chance of fire on those shells, which is also fairly low. You will not be setting fires with this ship. AP damage, 9,500, giving you 199,500 damage per minute. Once again, also not breaking that the usual 200k mark for battleships per minute. This ship does not do well as far as pumping out large amounts of damage. It can do decent alpha strikes. You will be kind of hunting for cruisers in this because you will be able to damage them significantly more than any other ship. Secondaries, she has 6x1 127 millimeter guns and 4x1 127 millimeter guns. Both of them have a range of 5 kilometers. Reload time on the dual turrets is 6 seconds. On the single is 3 seconds. Damage coming from them, 1,800, with a 5% chance to set fire. AA is another strong suit for this ship, and you will kind of want it because it can get kind of nasty out there with some of those carriers. The carrier players have been rejuvenated as of late, if you haven't played. So having good AA is definitely a strong suit. Max AA range is going to be 5 kilometers, doing only 43 damage. And then once you get out to the innermost circle, you're going to be doing up to 363 damage per second. Max speed of the ship, 27 knots with a turning radius of 760 meters. And then finally, rudder shift time is at 15.4 seconds. Concealment of the ship, 13.7 by sea, 11.5 kilometers by air, and 12.4 while firing in smoke. And that's the history, or those are the stats of the ship. Let's now go ahead and go through the build of the ship. As far as mod slots go, you don't have main battery mod 1 to kind of fall back on. So I went with AA guns just because there's already a really long reload on the ship, and you can go for main battery mod 2 if you want to increase the turret traverse speed, which can be helpful, but I think buff what the ship is strong at. It's already fairly strong at AA. Boost up your max range to 6 kilometers. You're going to thank yourself, especially when you get assaulted by German dive bombers. In mod slot 2, we have steering gear mod 2 just to try to increase the maneuverability, because that's all you have to protect yourself in this ship. And spoiler alert, it's still not the most maneuverable ship. It's fairly decent, really tight turning radius. And then finally in the third slot, we only have target acquisition mod. I really hope in the future we get something else to put in here, because half the time I don't even feel like buying this sort of mod for these ships, because I don't find it particularly useful, especially with Florida, because you're supposed to be playing this at really long range. If you need to increase your guaranteed detection radius, you may be sunk already. If a destroyer is hiding that close, you may just need to give up. Now, as far as commander goes, we're going to be using William Sims. Recently, we did get Scharnhorst and Cunningham. It's going to be the typical kind of long-range build, just because you just need to be able to hit your shots. The accuracy and dispersion on this ship, it's not incredible, but it is fairly decent, and the shells do kind of like to stick all together. Base rate for Sims, of course, is going to gain the HP, so we do end up boosting up our ship's base HP to 64,430 for 65,240 for me, or it could be higher if you have your Sims ranked out higher. Then I'm running Flammable Cannoneer, Gyrating Drill Bits, Marksmanship, Emergency Specialist, and then finally Will to Rebuild. I think last on Emergency Specialist, you can easily switch between that and Reaching Out XXL depending on what you want to do. And that is the build. As far as some key stats that are different, we already went over that the max HP went up to 65,240. Range on the guns went up to 17.3 kilometers, and our max AP shell damage went up to 10,070. We also already covered the AA is now up to a 6 kilometer range, and finally the rudder shift time is down to 13.1. One last thing we should probably cover is going to be the consumables. So on the ship, we have 3 kinds of consumables. We have your bog standard damage control party. With our build, we have a consumable duration of 6 seconds with a reload time of 67.2 seconds. Repair party with a recovery, and it's a fairly substantial recovery of 548 hit points per second. And you will be using this a lot, especially if you can manage to not get citadeled and not get citadel damage, because of course you only recover 10% of citadel damage, and there's all that. But if you can manage to not get hit in the citadel, you can recover a lot of hit points with this. So hit points per second, 548. It's going to last 22.4 seconds with a reload time of 80 seconds. And you're going to have 3 charges of it. And finally, you do have your final one, and you're going to be able to choose between 3 different consumables here: Catapult Fighter, Spotter Plane, and Enhanced Secondary Targeting. My go-to has been the Spotter Plane, just because there's those moments where I want to really use, to really count on the accuracy, and I'll go ahead and pop that. So yeah, guys, that's all of the stats and the builds. As far as history go, we did allude earlier to the fact that this is a paper ship. The idea being that this was a preliminary design for a battleship in accordance with the Washington Naval Treaty. Of course, it never got made, so here we have it brought to life in this game. Oh, I should also say, the camo you see on the ship right now does not come standard with the ship. It is available in the shop for 750 doubloons. I really like it because it's ostentatious and dumb looking, and I'm all for some nice gold accents on my battleships. Anyways, let's go ahead and get into a game with this thing. So we are here on Trident, and we are going to be playing the middle cap, and that's probably the best spot for us in this ship, just because we like to kind of play middle, pick our shots, and try to see who we can really damage. Now, our ships of choice to hit are going to be cruisers. This ship is incredible at getting those hits on cruisers. The guns have no trouble reaching out and touching them and doing some significant damage. You do have the chance of overpens, which at this time in the game, there is a slight issue with the overpens where it can end up reading like 0 damage. So you may not see the highest damage game, but I think this shows off a lot of the capabilities of this ship. So we want to play at longish range, and we want to go ahead, pick our shots, and try not to get focused down by anyone. So we're kind of heading to this island to take cover. And as other ships push in, we're going to go ahead and utilize their aggressiveness against them and try to start whittling down. We do have that beautiful 17.3 kilometer range. So we can absolutely reach out and touch ships, and we can do some fairly significant damage to them. And the one downside, I would say, is in this match, we don't have many cruisers to go after. We have 2, and one of them is a Siegfried, which is essentially a battle cruiser. Which doesn't do a lot. So we do go ahead and switch over to HE, just of course as the Scharnhorst comes around and pretty much shows broadside. But this is an excellent example of what this HE can do and why it shouldn't be snarked at, laughed at, where this ship can kind of help hold its own against battleships. Look at that. Beautiful damage for HE. 8,000 damage. Not too shabby at all. So we're going to go ahead and keep playing this midpoint right here and seeing who we can keep our shot at. Right now, it's looking like Scharnhorst is going to be our target of choice. Of course, as I say that, Belfast goes ahead and pops out. And at this point, we're just going to go ahead, try to fire our shot at Scharnhorst, switch over to AP, and go after that Belfast. Because as we were talking about earlier, cruisers are who we want to target. That is going to be our bread and butter, especially with these current guns. As we see right there, another great salvo from the HE. Nothing to really laugh at as far as HE goes, but you do always want to try to use AP because of that potential damage, and that's just what we do here. Switch on over to that AP, and of course we lose the Belfast as our destroyer smokes up. Florida as a ship overall, it requires a very passive and long range playstyle. You don't have the armor to go ahead and stand up to ships in closer range combat. We will show that off a little bit later, where we switch from this passive gameplay out into a much more active, chase people down, sort of aggressive gameplay, and you'll see we do not really stand up. But Belfast decides to pop back up. We switch back over to AP, knowing that if we can get a round off in the next 33 seconds, because once again, this is one of the downsides to this ship, is the sheer amount of time it takes to load a salvo. Of course, we are selecting back and forth between the ships, maybe hopefully trying to make the Belfast think that if he has Ingenious, that we're not fully targeting him, but at this point he all but knows that that is what we're doing. And as we are ready to fire our shell, he goes full broadside. We go ahead, fire those shells. Look at that beautiful dispersion right on target, and we go ahead and smack him for a good chunk of damage as we rear end our teammate. But hey, we needed a tactical stopping point to go ahead and accelerate forward, especially because Scharnhorst now pushing forward and going full broadside to us. We do still have that rear turret. This ship does have decent rear turret angles. That is one thing to say, and because it has an okay rudder shift, you can kind of do that thing where you fire your front guns and then you shuffle out and get your rear gun on target and you shuffle back in. You know what I'm talking about. We've all done it. But it has very decent rear firing angle, so you can absolutely do that. Scharnhorst about to go down, and we're just kind of hunting for the next target. As far as kills go for in this game, not many kills have been put up on the board. We've lost a cruiser, they have lost a destroyer, but a lot of their ships are on fairly low health. Belfast now utilizing its HE. We can see it had us spotted and then it doesn't anymore, so he's going to start blind firing. Their Scharnhorst does go down, so we are now up one ship as far as everything goes. And now we're going to start seeing what happens when you play this ship more aggressively. We go ahead and start putting on the charge. We know they have... Oh, we didn't actually take down their Scharnhorst. My bad. Scharnhorst pops back up. We're going to go ahead, take him out with our first salvo, and we knock him out fairly easily, just because he's broadside, and that's easy enough for us to get. And we get set on fire once again. Siegfried is broadside, so we're going to start to get a little greedy on that. And you'll see what happens in the Florida when you start to play greedily and start to kind of leave cover and leave the safety and protection of relatively long range and somewhat well angled. First salvo out on Siegfried, completely miss him, and the second salvo is going to go straight in to that mountain because we missed it just in time. And Belfast goes ahead and sets 3 fires on us, and that doesn't do well. And of course, as soon as our damage party ends, we get another 2 fires set on us. Kind of wishing we didn't take certain perks that limit the damage control party time, because we now have a heavy permanent fire. But this will let us show you just how much HP these the repair party can actually end up recovering for us. And we go ahead and destroy the Belfast, and he gives us a parting present of a 3rd fire on our ship. And Siegfried is now also fully on our broadside, and we take another huge hit from him, and we are down to below half health already, and just in those couple seconds of playing rather aggressively. And that's kind of what happens in this ship, is if you get caught out, you lose a ton of your health really quickly. We're going to go ahead, return fire on Siegfried, 1 shot away, does a little bit of damage, and the next salvo does just a little bit more, bringing us up to 88,000 damage, and we are on the lifeline. Thankfully, our damage control party brings us back into the fight, and we're going to start kind of running away, because we don't have the hit points, as we've been saying, to really sit in a stand-up fight. We need to either A, disengage fully, but thankfully Siegfried here turns the way his guns are not looking, and we are going to be able to reach out and hopefully wipe him from the map, if not get a couple of extra shots out on him. Shots fall just short, and a teammate ends up wiping him out. And that's really the end of this match for us. The rest of their team just sort of melts around us. But yeah, guys, that's the Florida for you. Like I said, she plays really well at range. Once you get into an aggressive play, once you start pushing, you're gonna get hurt. You're gonna get hit. If that's the kind of play style you want to play, if you're a big American Battleship aficionado and you're tired of the Iowa and things like that, and you want to experience something different, maybe pick up the Florida. But buyer beware, she is a rough ship to play. Yeah, guys, that's the video for today. I hope you like it. If you did, go ahead, hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, and I hope you have a great rest of your day. See ya.